Yo, 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 good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you might be listening to this is your boy Sutton Def from the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel, and you are listening to Quiet Storm Sports. Yes, that's right, Quiet Storm Sports, a segment kind of show of the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel that I've been doing this season so far. Welcome in, everybody. This is my instant reaction to the Ravens 38-30 loss against the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football, man. It's crazy. I'm about to flip the table over. It's that crazy, bro. Like I'm so, I don't even know if upset is the right word, because I don't even think I'm that. I think I'm just like, it's kind of like, again, same old Ravens. It's kind of like I'm just like frustrated. You know what I mean? Like, frustration is the main thing. It's not devastation. That's not the word. It's more frustration, because the Ravens continue to lose in the same ways over and over again. And I just don't seem to understand how this team cannot turn the corner and stop making some of these same mistakes. And then also, if I'm Eric DeCosta, let me kind of start here. If I'm Eric DeCosta, I am on the phones right now, trying to find a way to bring a pass rusher to Baltimore. Because what we saw on display tonight from the Ravens front, unacceptable. And I know Nnamdi Madubuike didn't play. And that was a big reason for the Ravens pretty much not being able to stop anything. The Detroit Lions got whatever they wanted on offense tonight. Whatever they wanted. It was too easy. Jared Goff was totally comfortable back there. He left that game with his jersey way too white. The Lions wore white tonight. Jared Goff's jersey is still very, very white, and that's a problem. We were not able to get to Jared Goff at all. He took no sacks. Okay, no sacks. Zero. A goose egg for sacks. Meanwhile, the Detroit Lions got 7 sacks on Lamar Jackson tonight, which I'll get to Lamar Jackson and those 7 sacks in a little bit, because I don't really think that it was all in the offensive line. However, this defense right now, the pass rush is just embarrassing. It's non-existent. Actually, it's not even embarrassing, because to be embarrassing, it would mean that it would have to exist in some capacity. It's non-existent. Like, the only thing that you have to worry about with Jared Goff, you don't have to worry about mobility. You don't have to worry about him extending a bunch of plays. You don't have to worry about him being dynamic with his legs. You don't have to worry about, the escapability of things. You don't have to worry about any of that. All you have to worry about is being able to make him hesitate, right? Because he's the type of quarterback who knows damn well he's not mobile. And in 2025, you know how important mobile quarterbacks are. So the fact that Jared Goff is not a mobile quarterback, that must tell you he must be really damn good at taking a 3-step drop, hitting the hitch, and just getting the ball out. And that's what he did all night. And look, guys, I hadn't been live since the news that Madubuike was not going to play dropped. But after that news dropped that Madubuike wasn't playing, I mean, I'm not going to say I kind of knew the Ravens would lose this one, but I knew it was going to be a lot more difficult. I knew the offense was going to have to play literally damn near perfect football in order to win this game. And they just couldn't. I mean, obviously Madubuike doesn't play tonight, and Travis Jones, when he was out there, he was getting doubled to hell, man. It was just too easy. It was the perfect gift wrapped present that we could have handed to the Lions, not having Madubuike tonight. Because, like, oh, your best interior D lineman? Appreciate that, Dre. Appreciate the sub, Dre. Welcome to the Rain Gang. But basically what the Lions said was, oh, your best interior D lineman, he's hurt. While our 2 guards are struggling, we got 2 young guards, left and right guard, who are struggling right now, Ratledge and Mahogany. But your best guy is out. So we're just going to double your second best guy. Take him out of the game. Travis Jones got hurt at some point. And the rest was just kind of history, man. The Ravens could not stop the run at all. I think that the Lions averaged maybe 10 yards a carry. Maybe like 10 yards a carry. It was insane. It was insane. Over 120 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for joining this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. Again, this is your boy Sutton Def from the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel, kind of covering this game. This is my instant reaction again to the Ravens 38-30 loss to the Detroit Lions. Let me go through some numbers really quick. Jared Goff, 20 for 28, 202 yards passing, 1 passing touchdown, 4 carries for 6 yards. I mean, Jared Goff didn't even have a crazy day through the air. You know what I mean? He just got what he needed to when he needed it every single time. And it was like the Ravens just couldn't stop it. They had no answer. They had no answer. And again, the main reason is because we could not get pressure. Odafe Owe, milk carton. Mike Green, milk carton. And I know those guys made maybe like 1 or 2 pressure type of plays throughout that game. I remember those plays. But there's nobody on that front for the Ravens who can impact the game outside of Nnamdi Madubuike. And Travis Jones can too, but only when he's got Nnamdi Madubuike right there next to him, so Travis isn't getting double teamed all night. The Ravens got no pressure, guys, 0. Like it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. You know, you can't win football games like that. Going through some more numbers. David Montgomery, 12 carries for 151 yards. That's averaging 12.6 a carry. Of course, he had the 72-yard run, which kind of inflates those numbers, but I don't care. Still 12 carries for $151 against the Ravens. Against the Ravens. This game was just a disgrace. If you're a Ravens fan, if you work for the Ravens, if you're a player, if you're a coach, if you're management, if you're in the castle, upper castle with the Eric DeCostas and the Bishadis of the world and all those guys and Sashi Brown, this was an embarrassing, disgraceful loss. Because since when do the Ravens let up, checks notes, over 200 rushing yards? Because David Montgomery had 12 carries for 151. Jahmyr Gibbs had 22 carries for 67. I mean, the Ravens did a relatively good job bottling up Jahmyr Gibbs and not allowing him to really, really get off. But he still had 2 touchdowns. I mean, the Lions running backs had 2 touchdowns each and over 200 yards. If that doesn't tell you how much this team needs Nnamdi Madubuike back, and if he's gone long term, man. Over 150 people watching live. Thank y'all so much. Like the video if you're watching on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter if you are listening on Twitter right now. And maybe consider coming over to the YouTube, looking at Purple Rain Podcast, watching over there. It was insane. It was insane. I want to read some of what you guys are saying here in the chat before I continue ranting, because I'm not done. I've got a lot more to get to. Tyler Brown in the chat says, Sutton Rain Gang, Purple Therapy Sessions, WTF, where do we start? I mean, I think you start in the trenches. This game is played from the inside out. We all know that. And if you cannot win in the trenches, which the Ravens clearly did not tonight, and you can see that because Lamar Jackson was sacked 7 times. Jared Goff was sacked 0 times. You couldn't get to Jared Goff. Yeah. And the Ravens go to Arrowhead next week to play the Chiefs, who got to have this game. They got to have that game next Sunday. Incredible start to the season, right? Let me see what else you guys are saying here. Sam E says Henry's decision-making has been off all year. 2 crucial fumbles and almost threw a pick. Yeah, bro. It was looking good for Henry early on. Second half came around, and the Ravens, for some reason, even though it was a tie ball game coming out of the second half and they had the ball first, Ravens just, I don't want to say completely abandoned the run game, but they kind of did. The Ravens did not run the football at the clip that I expected them to coming out of halftime. And Lamar was, making some passes down the field, and some of those throws he were making were very good. I think I only saw him miss maybe 2 throws tonight, like total 2 throws, maybe 3 max. So Lamar passing was pretty good. And I'll get to Derrick Henry's fumble in a second. but I want to talk about Lamar really quick. Lamar Jackson, again, he made some good plays through the air, but I will say this. He's got to stop holding the ball too long. He's got to stop holding the ball too long. There were multiple times in this game where I felt like Lamar Jackson was, I guess, kind of caught in between trying to figure out whether or not he wants to run the football or whether or not he wants to pass the football. And ultimately ended up being negative plays. He ended up getting sacked. That's why the Ravens had so many sacks. That's why Lamar was sacked 7 times tonight. A lot of those, at least 3 of those were because he just was indecisive about what he wanted to do with the football. And this is something that we've seen with Lamar Jackson before. And of course, you got to take the good with the bad. And they showed an interesting stat during the game. They said that Lamar Jackson averages less than 1 throwaway per game. And of course, that speaks to, and that's throughout his career, but of course, that speaks to, his mobility and his escapability and him always being able to keep the play alive, seemingly, which he does. 90% of the time, Lamar Jackson can scramble around, keep a play alive, and make something amazing happen. Hell, he made it happen tonight a couple of times, right? But the times where he couldn't make it happen outweighed the times that he did make it happen. And that's an issue. That's an issue. Like, it's okay to get out of the pocket sometimes and throw the ball away and live to fight another down. Now, what I will say is this. I think the mentality of a Lamar Jackson here, if you're a Ravens fan, or even if you're not a Ravens fan, but the mentality of Lamar Jackson is totally figured out by now. When Lamar Jackson knows, and you can even read it in his body language, even on the sidelines, when he was not on the field, what I read from Lamar Jackson on the sideline was that he was frustrated, not only with the fact that, the offense couldn't score a touchdown on every single drive, because that's, of course, what he wants to do, but because he knew his defense had no answers tonight. Okay, he knew the defense had no answers tonight. And when Lamar feels like there's more pressure on him to put it all on his back and win the game, not to say that he folds, because he doesn't. He makes some big plays in those moments, right? And I know the Ravens made a last-ditch effort to come back, but it was kind of garbage time. But Lamar Jackson made some big plays down the stretch of the game to kind of keep it going, to kind of keep it, competitive, keep it close, right? But he presses. That's the issue. He presses a little bit too hard when, the game is quite obviously in his hands. And we've seen that in the playoffs too, but to see it in prime time against a playoff team, you know what I mean? Like, and again, another team who had to have this win. This was their first good win of the season. They beat the Bears last week, got whooped by the Packers week 1. So to beat the Ravens tonight was big for the Detroit Lions. But again, I felt like Lamar Jackson was pressing in that one. And that was part of the reason why, you saw some of those sacks that he took, right? Because, there were times where he was just holding the ball, kind of dancing around, looking back to see if there was a guy, on his tail. And it was just like, bro, get out of the pocket or throw it away. I hate to see the indecisiveness, but I think, again, it comes because, once your defense is back out on the field, they can't stop a runny nose. They can't stop anything. And again, I think that this loss for the Ravens is the biggest indictment is on the defense. I truly do believe that. Let me see what you guys are saying in here. King Blaze says O-line trash, defense trash. Yeah, they didn't play well tonight at all, bro. They did not play well tonight at all. The O-line, I'll give the O-line a little bit more credit than I give the defense in its totality. Because the defense, to me, again, and this is my biggest thing, right? And I promise I'm going to get to the Derrick Henry fumble at the end. But my biggest thing for the defense is that why can the Ravens not force turnovers against good teams? You think about it. The last 3 games that the Ravens played against good teams, that was tonight against the Detroit Lions. You lose the turnover battle, Ravens lose the game. Game before that, against the Buffalo Bills, week 1, Ravens lost the turnover battle, Ravens lost the game. Game before that was the divisional round against the Bills again. Ravens lost the turnover battle. Ravens lost the game. I tweeted this. And if you're watching on X, shout out to you. You can go to my page and you can look at this right now. I tweeted this before halftime even started. I knew the way that this game was going, the Ravens defense would need to force a turnover. They had to force a turnover in order to win that game. That was the only way. It was the only way. I knew this before halftime started. It was just one of those type of games where, the Ravens were going to bend, maybe give up a touchdown here and there. But what that does is that keeps the opposing team's offense on the field way too long. So I knew that the Ravens would have to force a turnover, flip the field, give Lamar Jackson an extra possession in this one. Because when you're playing against these great teams, it's a game of possessions, bro. That's what it comes down to. Who possessed the ball more? Whoever possessed the ball more has a higher opportunity, a higher chance to win the football game. Time of possession and turnover battle. Ravens continue to lose those two battles against the best teams in this league. And that's the issue. That's the issue. You cannot win games like that. You just can't. Chat's going crazy tonight. Appreciate y'all for coming through, man. Ravens therapy session in here. Make sure you like the video. Subscribe to the channel as well if you are new here to the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. Man, crushing loss. Crushing loss, man. Justin Bellamy, what's going on, Justin? Justin says, in big games, we always turn the ball over and never force turnovers. Yeah, that's what I just got done saying, man. It's not conducive to winning football. You can't win against, and forget the postseason, honestly. Forget the playoffs. You cannot beat good teams if you lose the turnover battle. You just can't. The reason why the Ravens were even able to beat the Cleveland Browns last week, these Ravens are phony, man. They're phony. And it's mainly because of the defense. Because against bad teams who don't have enough offensive talent to really kind of run with you. I mean, you guys saw what the likes of Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown did to the Ravens tonight. The Browns don't have guys like that. You know what I mean? So, that's the difference right there. When you have that offensive talent and the Ravens, the opposing team is able to go toe-to-toe with you offensively, you have to be able to take possessions. You have to be able to take food off of that offense's plate. The best defense is a good offense. And that's especially true for this Ravens team. They could not stay on the field on offense, and they could not get off the field on defense. And that was the reason the Ravens lost this game. 100%. Love West says, we got to give the O-line grace. We have no money spent over there. All the money is on the defense. Defund the defense. My good friends from Lunch Break Hot Take have been kind of coining that phrase for a couple of seasons now. Defund the defense. And honestly, I'm kind of feeling it now. I'm feeling it now. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna be on live with Coach Evans tomorrow and Jose from Lunch Break Hot Take, and I'm gonna tell him, hey, bro, y'all might have been on to something. Y'all talked about that defund the defense, because there's no way that we've got, between all of them, 10 plus all pros on the team, right? Like between different seasons, between different players, right? And none of these guys are making big plays. None of these guys are forcing turnovers. It's just, it baffles me. And again, a lot of it is because, again, the game of football is played from the inside out, and the Ravens on the inside today, they lost. They lost. Quite simply put. It was embarrassing. And again, if I'm EDC, I'm on the phone right now trying to find me a pass rusher, because this is ridiculous. DG says front seven is sorry. Vlad TV says Ravens are going 1-3. I mean, it's on the table, totally on the table. The Ravens can't get any sustained drives. You know what I mean? We can't stay on the field. Derrick Henry, he's getting bottled up. He started off the game pretty well, but then after that just got bottled up for the remainder of the night pretty much. Ravens desperately need Pat Ricard back. It's the big guys down low, man. Without a Pat Ricard, this run game is just anemic at times. We can't spring open any big runs, seemingly. We get maybe one a game, but there's that. And then without, again, Nnamdi Madubuike, you're just going to double Travis Jones, and Travis Jones isn't going to be able to do anything because he's getting doubled, and you can just run the ball for 10 yards a carry or something like that. I think they did tonight. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Down the stretch in that game, Henry fumbled again, and I guess I'll get into this now. Henry did fumble again at the end of the game. Ryan, thank you for the sub. Thank you for the sub, Ryan. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining the Rain Gang. Derrick Henry did fumble. However, I think that with so much pressure on the offense to play damn near perfect because the defense is literally doing the bare minimum. You know what I mean? I mean, the Ravens, I think, forced one, maybe two punts in the second half. You know what I mean? No turnovers, of course. But when you're constantly putting your offense on the field and telling them like, hey, like we were not able to not only stop this team, we were not able to force a turnover. We're not able to get you more possessions. The defense just quite simply isn't doing its job. Zach Orr, and I know, guys, I'm going off on a tangent here, but this is why it's called the therapy session, right? I'm just kind of getting all my live thoughts out. I want you guys to do the same. Of course, I want to read the chat. If you're in the chat, let me know. Tell me how you're feeling right now. But Zach Orr in this defense, man, it's really giving. You can tell that the Dean Pease influence is there, if you know what I mean. Because the defense is a lot of soft zone coverage, right? Like the Ravens, it feels like they're not playing aggressive. It feels like they're not being proactive. They're being more reactive to things. And teams are just able to kind of nickel and dime the Ravens down the field. And it's really like the whole death by 1,000 cuts thing. And that's just it's so frustrating to see because it keeps teams on the field for so long. And again, guys, the Ravens this year so far, right? They are 0-3. 0-3. I know the Ravens' official record is 1-2, but the Ravens are 0-3 when it comes to the time of possession battle on the season. Every single week, the opponent has had more time offensively than the Ravens had. If the Ravens don't look at that as an issue tomorrow morning at practice, that's an issue. And I'm sure they'll look at it like, hey, like we have to, Harbaugh he might sit down, right? He might sit down with Todd Monken and say, hey, look, we need to figure out a way to get more sustained drives because it's literally like with our offense, it's literally either Derrick Henry huge run. And when I say huge run, I mean like really big run, or Lamar Jackson heroics and finding a way to will this team down the field and into the end zone. Outside of those two things, the saying goes like when you have a lot of sizzle but no steak, right? That's what it feels like. That's what it felt like. A lot of sizzle but no steak, right? Like nothing really there that's keeping the Ravens on the field and keeping the opposing team off the field. If you're playing the Ravens, you're going to have your opportunities on offense. Love West says, Sutton, what did he say? What did he say? Sutton, it's hard to sustain a run game with no line. That's why you have to invest in it, but they don't do that. And yeah, we know the reason why they don't invest in the O-line. The reason is because they have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, again, who can make something out of nothing when it comes to his protection. Lamar Jackson is known very well to scramble around, dart back and forth in the pocket, create new pockets throughout the down, right? Throughout the rep. He's really good at that. But when it comes to the run game, if you don't have anybody who's going to spring open a block and spring open a rushing lane, for Derrick Henry, then it's going to be really hard. You saw Derrick Henry run into a lot of stone walls in this game. The Ravens at the end of the first half had gotten all the way down to the 1 yard line and could not score. That is the second time this season the Ravens have done that. I think that the goal line offense also needs some work for sure. I think if you're Todd Monken, you have to give Lamar Jackson, and this is easy to say as a fan, you guys know at the end of the bar, the whole thing, the whole spiel. But I think you have to give Lamar Jackson on the first two downs. If you start a drive, well, not start a drive, but if you have first and goal, I think within those first two downs, you have to let Lamar Jackson drop back and examine the field and threaten the defense with his arm, but then also with his scrambling ability with his legs as well, because that's going to open up a free receiver. You know, if guys have to kind of crash down towards the line of scrimmage, if the Ravens are close to goal line and they have to defend Lamar Jackson's run towards the end zone, that's going to make it easier for Lamar Jackson to find somebody who's open. We see it happen all the time. I again, I think that the goal line, not only the play calling, but the execution as well, has to be better. And it does start up front with the line. I mean, the Ravens trench play right now is just not good. There's really no way to slice it. No other way to slice it. Let me see. DG says that catch by D-Hop on the sideline, though, nasty. Yeah, I mean, you know, at this point, D-Hop is going to make a play. He's going to make a play somewhere, somehow. Cam bringing up a good point here. Says no reason Keaton Mitchell should not be getting snaps next week. I agree with that. I was saying that last week, bro. Like, having him as a healthy scratch when, I mean, our running backs already aren't productive this season. Like, if we're talking through week 3, I mean, the Ravens running backs are just, they're not doing much, Hill or Henry. You know, so why not bring in a Keaton Mitchell who's going to be a change of pace back and give defenses a different look? Because right now, it's very black and white. If you're playing the Ravens, it's like, basically the question is Henry on the field or is he off the field? If he's on the field, about a 60, 70% chance that he's probably getting the ball in some capacity. I'd say maybe 60%, 50%, somewhere around there. You know, he's probably getting the ball. But then Justice Hill's in the game. You know, it's an obvious passing down. It makes the Ravens very predictable. So I know Harbaugh says, hey, look, we don't really have a whole lot of snaps for Keaton Mitchell because we got Henry and Hill, and there's great problems to have. And it's like, bro, I get all that, but the running game isn't working. It's not working. It's time to throw in some different wrinkles, man. It's time to throw in some different looks. Kind of throw these defenses off, because if we just keep running it the same way we're doing now, you're gonna have Derrick Henry running behind that trash offensive line, and I'm willing to call it that. You're gonna have him running behind a trash O line and getting stonewalled on first and second downs. So, and again, a lot of this I think has to do with Pat Ricard not being part of the blocking scheme as well, the running scheme overall in general. When he gets back, that'll be huge. But yeah, I definitely agree with you, Cam. I think that Keaton Mitchell deserves a shot. Definitely deserves a shot. TY says they send pressure and nothing happens. Yeah, man. I mean, you got guys glued. I mean, Tavius Robinson glued to guys. Dafe Owe glued. Mike Green locked up. Won't let him out. I don't know, guys. Eventually, we'll have to have a conversation about Mike Green. Maybe he's not the star pass rusher that most Ravens fans wanted him to be. Sorry. You know what I mean? Because still no sacks. You know what I mean? This was his first game kind of starting. You know what I mean? He got a lot more snaps. Kyle Van Noy is out right now. And again, so is Matabike. So that front seven is kind of beat up. But like, we needed guys to step up tonight. And they largely did not. You know, John Jenkins, I think, played a pretty good first half, stopping the run. But, I mean, if he's the only guy who can stop the run, then you're not really stopping the run. You know what I mean? Like, and it showed tonight. It showed tonight. Lions averaged probably 10 yards a carry, had over 200 yards of rushing. You just can't win. If you don't win down low, you're not going to win. If you don't win the turnover battle, you're not going to win. If you lose time of possession, you're probably not going to win. Ravens lost time of possession last week against the Browns and still blew them out. Why? Because the Browns don't have offensive talent, right? We saw what Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta, we saw what it looks like tonight for the Ravens to play a team that's competent on offense. And, you know, obviously the Lions are a little bit more than just competent, but that's what it looks like, man. I mean, and then you got the Chiefs next week, who, of course, they've been struggling, yes, but in big games, Andy Reid historically has proven to be able to outcoach John Harbaugh. So if you don't think that the Ravens are going to be put in the same sort of conflict in that Chiefs game, as they were tonight against the Lions. And I get the Lions are more offensively talented right now, pound for pound, than the Chiefs are. But you're mistaken, because it's just up front, the Ravens aren't going to be able to get any pressure on Mahomes. And if you can't get any pressure on Mahomes, hell, even if you do get pressure on Mahomes, he can scramble out. He's not even like Jared Goff. Thing about Mahomes is he can hit his 3-step drop, hit the receiver, or if he doesn't see anything, he can scramble out. So if the Ravens can't generate any sort of interior pressure, which they were not able to do tonight, Jared Goff sat in a very, very clean pocket for most of that game. If the Ravens can't do that against the Chiefs, you're staring down 1-3. And you're on the road. You're staring down 1-3. It's man. This is an embarrassing loss. An embarrassing loss. Let me see. DG says, I gotta say, I'd rather lose like this than giving up games they're in control of. That's a fair point. I mean, if we're talking about which loss feels more frustrating between this one and the Week 1 Bills loss, honestly, I would say that this loss feels worse. And it may, I know it's just, I don't want it to sound like prisoner of the moment, but like losing to Josh Allen is one thing, but losing to Jared Goff and the Lions is a totally different thing for me, bro. Because I mean, Jared Goff is a one-trick pony back there. He's going to sit back there. He's not going to move out of the pocket. If he has to move out of the pocket, that is advantage Ravens. That's advantage any team that's playing the Lions. You know what I mean? Because he's not mobile. You know what I mean? He's a statue quarterback. So all you have to do is throw him off the spot. And the Ravens cannot do that all night. And so if you cannot do that against a guy who's just going to stand there in the pocket and deliver a throw, if you can't get any pressure, if you can't win up front, how can you expect to beat any team with a professional quarterback playing? You just can't. You just can't, bro. I tell you, tonight was the best example of why the Ravens need Nnamdi Madubuike. And I'm not saying that if Nnamdi played, then the Ravens would have definitely won, but his absence was felt. His absence was felt. But no, I definitely think that this loss hurts a little bit more because the Ravens weren't supposed to lose this game. You're at home too. Blackout game. Embarrassing. King Trent TV says the Ravens D coordinator needs to go. Can't generate a pass rush and can recover the field. The defense is trash. Yeah, it's terrible, brother. It's terrible right now. I mean, going into this game, the Ravens had the 31st pass defense. It's probably going to stay there. It's going to stay there. Team's getting worse. Yeah, bro. Justin says we'll win 11 or 12 games and be one and done again. This team organization has shown they are okay with just being good, not great. Look, man, the problem is Linderbaum won't be getting extended, I think. Interesting. But no, I mean, the problem is the Ravens have everything, right? Like in reality, the Ravens have everything you need to win a championship. You've got the quarterback. You've got the running back. You've got a very viable receiving core with Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, who had a good game, actually, and DeAndre Hopkins. Mark Andrews, who had a good game, bounce back game. Isaiah Likely coming back. You got all the pieces on offense. Of course, the offensive line, a little bit shaky there. But for the most part, I mean, this offense is on point. You know what I mean? Most times in this game, before the Ravens kind of got hit with that knockout punch after the Derrick Henry fumble, the offense was responding for the most part. They were responding. Yeah, there were a couple of 3-and-out drives where it was just like kind of like, come on, bro. But for the most part, the Ravens offense was responding. And that's why I kind of felt calm throughout this game. Like, yeah, I think that, you know, the defense is not going to be able to stand the test of time in this one. But I'm looking for the offense to just have kind of like one of those historic games like we've seen from a Lamar Jackson-led offense to kind of mitigate some of the struggles that the defense is going through. But they were not able to do that. But yeah, guys, it's just the problem is the defense. You have all the problem. You have all the pieces on offense. The defense is where you struggle because you cannot get pressure with four. And you saw very early in that game, the Ravens tried to send cornerback blitzes and things like that, and it didn't work. None of it worked. They were not able to touch Jared Goff. That's the issue. You cannot let these professional quarterbacks have a clean pocket on you. They'll dice you up every time. And we will lose to the Chicago Bears later in the season. We will lose to I think we play the Dolphins. Like we'll lose to some of these lower end teams. Absolutely. If they cannot get pressure and they allow basically these quarterbacks to drop back and have target practice. And I get it, they're getting the ball out relatively quick. I get that. But I saw tonight Aiden Hutchinson be able to generate pressure damn near instantly on Lamar Jackson to make sure that he had to find a way out of the pocket and scramble around. We could not do that to Jared Goff. And again, Jared Goff is way less mobile and way less shifty than Lamar. So that's the issue, man. I mean, it literally all comes down to pass rush. It all comes down to pass rush. I don't necessarily think that is Zach Orr, as much as we wanna put the blame on him, guys, and I get it, because like some of the defensive play calling is very, very questionable. But at the end of the day, we just don't have the guys up front to win. That defensive line is weak. The Ravens have always been one injury to Madubuike or Travis Jones. They've been one injury of one of those players away from just being a turnstile on defense. And that's exactly what we saw tonight. You know, like Marlon Humphrey, also just talking about the secondary really quick. Marlon Humphrey got beat on a couple of plays from Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra scored the touchdown on him. Amon-Ra scored he had the game-winning reception on 4th and 2 at the end of that one. And yeah, man, and this was a game where you needed Marlon Humphrey to be Marlon Humphrey and step up. And it just didn't happen. I know he was dealing with, I think, a growing injury or something like that. But he got torched up a couple of times pretty good. Again, man, when you're going up against a team who's got this talent on offense, yes, we've got talent in the secondary as well. But if you can't muddy up that pocket, you guys know. You know. Amon-Ra is like that. Yeah, he's tough. He's tough, man. He's tough. Address the trenches. Address the trenches. Nope. Take a skill player. One of the deepest trench classes in recent memory. Yeah, we're going to need some help in the trenches. The Lions got coverage sacks most of the time. Just drop Owe and Green in the coverage. Oh, yeah, I remember that from, I think it was like first quarter. I see Mike Green in coverage. I'm like, okay. Ravens defense is just trying anything at this point. Anything to force a big play. I mean, can't get a turnover. We're dropping Mike Green in the coverage, bro. When I saw that on the screen, when I tell you I wanted to flip shit in that very moment, like, because why? The one thing we bought in Mike Green to do was rush the passer. He led the nation in sacks last year. Why are we asking him to drop in coverage at all? You know what I mean? I get it. You want to disguise some looks here and there or whatever, but that's not what Mike Green is for. And again, I think we're going to have a conversation about Mike Green at some point. I asked Alex last week, at what point do we just let him keep, skating along with the Ravens, with the fan base's blind support with no sacks? You know what I mean? Because he had 17 and a half sacks last season. And I get it. He didn't play in the biggest conference, over in Marshall. But, like, we need to see some of that production start to show up. This Ravens defense has got to grow up very, very fast. If you don't have a Madubuike, who's kind of like the anchor in the middle of that defense, quiet as kept, Somebody on the outside's got to win. The guys on the outside can't win. They can't win. And it's to the point now where it's just like, maybe we're better off dropping some of these guys back into coverage. It's crazy. It's crazy. Oh my goodness. Twilly says Green Bay, Rams, Detroit, Eagles clearly will give us issues. We aren't the top team we think we are. Martavia says Monken is so overrated. I mean, offensive play calling, man. I honestly, outside of the fact that Henry kind of got taken out of this game, you know, in the second half, then I didn't have too much of a problem with the offensive play calling. You know, I thought that Todd Monken kind of fulfilled my request, my wish, right, of the Ravens being a little bit less predictable, especially on earlier downs. You know what I mean? Like just runs up the gut to Henry. Like the very first play of the game for the Ravens on offense, it was play action fake to Henry, and then went right over the middle to, I think it was Andrews or somebody on that first play. But that was good. You know what I mean? And then they kind of mixed in the running after that. Henry scored on that first play. I mean, on that first drive. But after that, I mean, I think the offense just kind of knew that this Detroit offense was going to get whatever they wanted on the defense. We do have a super chat donation. Somebody making it rain. Who is that? Godlike Creations making it rain here on this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. Thank you so much, brother. Let's bring up your chat here. It says no one expects Mike Green to dominate with the sacks if the defensive line cannot call for double teams. That's just not possible. I mean, listen, bro. When I see the Detroit Lions and the Cleveland Browns and the Buffalo Bills being able to get pressure on our quarterback with 4 to 5 rushers, and pretty much generate immediate pressure, I can't make excuses for our guys. I can't make excuses for, especially an Odafe Owe, who this is the game where without Kyle Van Noy, your running mate on the other side, without Nnamdi Madubuike anchoring that defense from the middle, you got to make more plays. You just got to make more plays, especially if you want the Ravens to extend you, which at this point, I think that it's Owe better. If I'm being honest with you, if I'm Owe, I'm probably already looking at like, okay, this might be my last year in purple and gold. Just not making enough plays, man. Again, no sacks. I can't make excuses for no sacks, for 0 sacks on a statuesque quarterback. I can't make excuses for that. I just can't. The Lions' offensive line played a hell of a game. I will say that, but hey, those guys on the defense for the Ravens get paid too. They're just not playing like it. Period. I'm sorry. Thank you for the super chat donation. Godlike Creations, appreciate you for making it rain here on this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. Excuse me. Let me see. Bro, the routes are taking too long to develop. That's a problem. Yeah, I mean, I would love a little bit more underneath stuff. It seems like Lamar is going down the field a lot more this season, and I don't hate it. Only thing is, I think that might be one of the reasons why this Ravens team is not able to win time of possession battles. You know, because when we score, our scoring drives, it's kind of quick. If you haven't noticed, like we're getting down the field with deep passes, huge, like big runs, things like that. And before you know it, we score and then the defense is right back on the field. You know, so I would like to see some stuff that kind of keeps the Ravens on the field longer, like more sustained drives. That needs to be a focal point this week, especially going up against a Patrick Mahomes, who you know will do that exact same thing that Jared Goff did tonight. He will do that to the Ravens, and probably even worse. Throwing to the likes of Tyquan Thornton, Hollywood Brown, and Xavier Worthy supposed to be back, and a washed up Travis Kelce. Oh, yes. Mahomes will throw all over this defense. Which is why the Ravens offense, at least for the time being, has to be the defense too. You have to keep teams off the field. You have to start sustaining drives. You have to win the time of possession battle, especially if you're not going to force any turnovers. Those are the two biggest reasons why the Ravens are 1-2, people. I keep saying it. Those are the two biggest reasons. We got another super chat donation. I'm going to get to that in a second. But the two biggest reasons, man, it's clear and obvious. Clear and obvious that the Ravens, they cannot win. They cannot win up front and force turnovers. And they cannot win the time of possession. Scott. I think this is Birdland BS Scott. Shout out to you, Scott, making it rain here on this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. Appreciate the super chat donation. Says, can we remember John has been here while time with offense? I've okay call issues. When do you hold him accountable? So Harbaugh, I mean, this was a game where, I don't know if Harbaugh's the one necessarily that we can hold totally accountable for this one, because this wasn't one of those like collapsing losses, like and just completely inexcusable loss like what you had against the Bills in week 1. However, this one was just more of like I think the Ravens, again, this one came down to the trenches, man. And I think that if the Ravens had a more viable pass rush and they had a better run defense, because the run defense was non-existent today, non-existent without Madubuike. Again, the only guy who could stop the run, John Jenkins, right? And that only lasted a half, 2 quarters. I think that's what it kind of boiled down to, guys, because the Ravens just couldn't get off the field. On third down, the Lions were awesome. They were awesome on third down. Let me see what the Lions stats were on third down. Third down efficiency. So the Lions were 7 for 14, 50% on third down, which is actually only a little bit better than the Ravens 6 for 11. But as we also know, on fourth down, which the Lions like to go for a lot, they were perfect on those, 3 for 3 tonight. So they were able to stay on the field, 24 first downs to the Ravens 21. Again, time of possession, 33 minutes and 18 seconds to 26:42 for the Ravens. Couldn't stop the run. Couldn't stop the run, man. You have David Montgomery averaging 12.6 yards a carry, and that's on 12 carries. Just embarrassing. 2 touchdowns each for the Lions running backs. Derrick Henry, meanwhile, 12 carries for 50 yards, 4.2 a carry, 1 touchdown, 1 fumble. Again, guys, and I get your point, Scott. A lot of us want to point the finger at Harbaugh. How I want to as well. But at the same time, I think we do have to kind of wake up and smell the coffee that this Ravens team down low in the trenches, and more so on the defensive line than the offensive line. And we saw that tonight without Madubuike. You're going to be able to get whatever you want on this Ravens defense. Doesn't matter how talented Kyle Hamilton is on the back end. Roquan Smith, who kind of did nothing tonight, really. He's been up and down. Doesn't matter how talented those guys are on the back end. Malachi Starks had gotten a lot of work today tackling, you know what I mean, which is never a good thing. If your safety is like getting that many tackles, that means that that last line of defense is being tested, and it was tonight. And I kind of wish Malachi Starks was a little bit more of a thumper. You know what I mean? I know he's more of the free safety, and Hamilton is kind of that thumper at the strong side. But I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. Malachi Stark's pretty good in coverage. It's just, and you can't ask him to make tackles like that against running backs and whatnot. There were a couple times where he just kind of got blown up a little bit. Ended up making the tackle, but kind of like got blown up and knocked off of his spot. Again, that's another story for another day. But back to John Harbaugh and the coaching. I don't think you can really squarely put this loss on a John Harbaugh. I think that you can put a lot of blame on the coordinators, specifically Zach Orr in this one. I don't think that he called a great game at all, but it really just comes down to Ravens couldn't win down low. That's all it is. That's all it is, man. Scott making it rain again. Making it rain again in the house. What's going on, Scott? Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. Making it rain again here on this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. Lamar's face says enough on that 3rd and goal. He hates calls he's getting. Not confident he has full control of this offense like he should. That's another good point, Scott. That's another good point. It doesn't feel like Lamar all the way agrees with some of the play calling, because sometimes as soon as a play is over, and it ends up being like a neutral or negative play, like for no gain or for a loss, Lamar like almost immediately like looks to the sideline. He's like kind of like complaining. You can tell he's like, bro, what was that? Like, I knew that shit wasn't gonna work. It didn't work. Here we are. Put the ball in my hands, and that's why I said earlier in the show, like, I think that the Ravens should probably, again, put the ball in Lamar Jackson's hands more in some of these high leverage situations. Like, you have to trust your $260 million quarterback. You got to put it in his hands sometimes. I mean, again, as good as Derrick Henry is, he's not Lamar Jackson. And that's why Lamar Jackson, I think, feels frustrated so much when, down near the goal line, like again, right before the half when the Ravens couldn't score, when they got it all the way down to the 1. Those type of plays frustrate the hell out of Lamar. So I would much rather you put the ball in his hands on these early downs. And I get it. From the 1-yard line, you would expect Derrick Henry to just be able to run it in, right? And run it 3 straight times with him. Sure. I understand that. But when the offensive line is not run blocking and winning at the rate that you need them to, you have to be a little bit more dynamic, I think, especially down low in the red zone. Put the ball in Lamar Jackson's hands and let him score. You know what I mean? Open up his options. And I'm not talking about a sprint out to the right where you're shrinking the field by the half a second. You know what I mean? And by the time that Lamar Jackson has to make a decision, he's got to force something. I mean, we've seen that multiple times. We saw it on the failed 2-point conversion attempt against the Bills in the playoff loss last year. I hate that play. Let Lamar drop back. Let him drop back. Have guys run routes. He will find somebody. And if you can't find somebody immediately, he will make time to find somebody in the same play. Like he will extend the play. That's what he specializes in. So let him extend the play or let him be anticipatory. But don't shrink the options. You know what I mean? Like that's again, the play calling down low on offense. I can definitely say it was a little bit shaky. But overall, I think there's some blame to go around on Todd Monken's side, but more for Zach Orr as well. I mean, it's just his defense is not at all showing up and being what they were expected to be coming into the season. These are growing pains that the Ravens should have worked through last year. And it seemed like they did because the defense really turned things around about halfway through the 2024 season. So it gave us Ravens fans all the confidence in the world that going into this season, right, we wouldn't have to have that period of time where it was again, we're kind of growing pains and the defense just can't force turnovers and we can't get pressure and things like that. Luckily, the back end of the defense is not giving up big plays, but it's really just like the underneath stuff and how teams are able to keep the defense on the field and kind of, again, nickel and dime us down the field. So it's like, sure, you can pick your poison, but how you alleviate that is pressure. And if you can't get pressure, teams can either do one or the other. Again, if you're going to give us the underneath stuff, since there's no pressure, we're going to take the underneath stuff all day. You know what I mean? And then last year, what you saw, there's miscommunication on your back end over there with the likes of Marcus Williams and Eddie Jackson, who were with the Ravens last year. We're going to throw it over your head. So it's kind of like you have to pick your poison. If you can't generate pressure, you got to pick your poison on what you let up. Do you want to let up the small stuff underneath or do you want to let up the big stuff over top? You can't generate pressure, so you got to pick one. That's the problem. That's the problem with the Ravens. But appreciate you for your super chat donation, Scott. Man, still over 150 people watching live. Thank y'all so much for coming out to this episode of the show. Scott also says nickels and dimes add to dollars over time. You're absolutely right, brother. You're absolutely right. That's the main thing. That's the main thing, man. Let me see. What else you guys are saying? The O-line is terrible, says D. Thoring. Ryan says Lamar needs to hold a player only meeting offense and defense. There's got to be some soul searching. I know that. By the way, make sure you guys like the video. Like the video if you're watching on YouTube. I appreciate that. Helps out our channel a ton. If you don't do anything else, like the video, guys. We appreciate it. I know you guys are Some of you guys are probably going to bed. Some of you guys are probably just waking up listening to this. But either way, make sure you find some time to like the video if you could. We'd appreciate it. Thank you so much. But yeah, man. This is one that the Ravens are gonna have to get over really quickly. You're gonna have to get over really, really quick because you got the Chiefs this week. Short week, and you got the Chiefs. A Chiefs with a chip on their shoulder. You know, like it's not going to get any easier. And then after that, you've got the Houston Texans, and then after that, you've got the Rams. Man, this was a hell of a game right here, guys. This was a hell of a game. Can we beat the Chiefs? I think the Ravens can beat anybody. That's the thing. I think that the Ravens can beat any team in this league. Still, I do believe that. And mainly because, well, I only feel that way because of Lamar Jackson at quarterback and what this offense can do when it's playing at its absolute best. And that's, again, why I was not worried for most of this game. I kind of had a feeling in the back of my head that the Ravens were going to lose because they just could not stop the run. And, you know, when you see that happen early on and you know that this team does not have takeaways in their character, you know what I mean? Like especially, you know, the defense, you kind of know how the game's going to go. But I think that the Ravens, especially because of their offense, they can hang with any team. Hey, they damn near, with how piss poor the defense played tonight, they damn near hung in that game towards the end. You know, had it not been for a late game Henry fumble, once Henry fumbled, the game was over. Right? The game was over. The fact, like, the point swing that caused ended the game. It ended the game. You know, because I think that the Ravens were down. I want to say the Ravens were down 4 at that point. That was when they were down 4 after the loop field goal. Henry fumbles on the next drive because they forced a 3-and-out on the Lions, or they forced them to punt. And yeah, the Ravens get the ball back. Henry fumbles, and that was pretty much it. Because that set the Lions up in our territory. It was kind of funny because did he fumble in the same spot pretty much that he fumbled against the Bills? I want to say it was because it was a run. He was going towards the left. It was somewhere around midfield. It gets punched out. Lions recover, and they're already in our territory, and they're up with only, 6 minutes to go? Something like that. That was when the game was over right there. That was it. The moment the offense stops responding and playing perfect, game's over. That's where you want the Ravens. If you are a coach of any other team, you're kind of looking at the way that the Bills and the Lions beat the Ravens this season. That's like, okay, that's the blueprint. If we can keep it close long enough to get to a point where this Ravens offense cannot make any mistakes and they have to play perfect, they'll make a mistake in the biggest moments. We just got to get to that point. Again, if you're a coach of any other team, this is what you're thinking when you're playing the Ravens, when you're game planning for the Ravens. We just have to get to a point in the game where it's close late in the game and the Ravens offense needs to deliver. They'll make some sort of mistake. Whether it's a Derrick Henry fumble, Lamar Jackson, I know he hasn't thrown any interceptions so far this season. Almost had one tonight that Brian Branch almost picked off, but thank goodness he dropped it. Ended up not mattering. But this Ravens offense just always seem to make a mistake. But again, I don't want to put it too much on the offense because the offense to this point, they're still averaging 35 a game? You know, but the games that we've lost, we've given up an average of 40? That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable, man. It's just not. You cannot put the blame on the offense. I'm giving the Ravens early season struggles the blame 80% on the defense. 80% on the defense, because you're not holding up your end of the bargain. You're giving up almost 40 a game against these good teams, especially. And you're not forcing any turnovers. So it puts so much pressure, so much weight on your offense. It puts so much weight on your offense down the stretch of games when your offense knows that, when two things. When your offense knows that we have to score because our defense is going to probably give up a score and they're not going to force a turnover, what that does mentally, it makes your offense, not just Lamar Jackson, it makes your offense press. It puts more pressure on them, you know? And when your defense knows on the flip side, hey, like, if our offense isn't perfect, I know we're already winded, we're already out of breath, but we're gonna have to go right back out there, and try to stop this run from this two-headed rushing attack in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And it's just that's demoralizing. You guys saw drive at the end of the first half lasted like 10 minutes. They damn near took up a whole quarter. We were letting them start from the 2-yard line and walk down the entire field and score a touchdown. We should have known right there that the Ravens were not primed to win that game tonight. Into the second half. Oh, man. Promise I'm almost done, guys. Promise I'm almost done, guys. Make sure you guys like the video. Like the video, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here at PRP. We will be live tomorrow as well. But still just getting out some thoughts here, man. Just getting out some thoughts. True, every loss looks the same. That's not coincidental. I mean, the same losses for years. Yeah, and that's where, I kind of have to agree with what Scott was saying earlier. How, like, at some point you got to kind of look at the coach and be like, hey, like, how does your team find this way to lose so consistently? Again, I think tonight is more of an indictment on the defense. And if we're really zooming in more, the interior of that D-line just had no answers. They had no answers. I mean, the run game for the Lions was just, you lose the turnover battle. You let him run for 200-plus yards. You lose the time of possession battle. You're going to lose the game. And it's frustrating because the offense still puts up 30 points. I know one of the touchdowns was kind of garbage time-like, but still, the offense at multiple times in this game responded. Lamar Jackson, I think, had, 3 touchdown passes, I want to say? So, defense has just got to make a play, man. And like I said before, I tweeted in the first half, the Ravens are not going to win this game if the defense cannot force a turnover. They didn't force a turnover. Ravens lost the game. Yeah, Twilly also says we went 3-and-out drives, 3 drives straight, just like week 1. It's the only reason teams outscore us. If the Browns had a quarterback, it would have been close too. And like I said, man, against teams who have offensive talent, if you can't force turnovers on that team, if you cannot take food off their plate and put it onto your offense's plate, you're not going to win these games. Not in the regular season, not in the playoffs, especially not in the playoffs. Especially not. Hambone says right now the math is 50% chance to make the playoffs. Yeah, this is a big loss. Huge loss, guys. Absolutely huge, monumental loss. This is when the Ravens were supposed to win at home against an NFC team. This is Lamar Jackson's only 3rd loss to an NFC team in his career. He's 24-3 now. Lost to the Eagles, Giants, and now the Detroit Lions. So 50% chance to make the playoffs. I mean, you got still murderer's row of opponents coming up next. I know the Chiefs and the Texans are kind of struggling, but they're still very good teams. Especially if you're a team like the Ravens, who will play down to the level of their competition, no matter who they're playing, pretty much. Again, those are 2 games that could be losses. Then you got the Rams, who are pissed off right now after getting walked down by the Eagles yesterday. They're coming up too. I think that this Ravens team, they really need that week 7 bye. I think it's week 7. I want to say they have their bye. They need that bye week bad. And I know it's so early in the season. It's only week 3. We're going into week 4 after today. But the Ravens do not look like a team with an identity. That's the moral of this story, guys. It looks like the Ravens' only identity, rather, is just, hey, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, we need you to win these games for us. Which is fine because, I think that Lamar Jackson should be, the guy to win us a lot of these games. Just like we see other quarterbacks league. Josh Allen does it. Justin Herbert's been doing it consistently this year. Hell, Baker Mayfield is even doing it at a high level. So again, I do think a lot of the onus is on Lamar. to kind of will the Ravens to victory. However, if this defense cannot get it together, if they cannot develop an identity on defense, which right now I have no idea what it is, it seems like we're just throwing shit at a wall and seeing if it sticks. And a lot of it's not sticking. And it starts down low. If the Ravens cannot be better down low in the trenches, stuffing the run, if the Ravens stop the run in this game against the Lions, they probably win that game. But if this Madubuike neck thing ends up being a multi-week thing, and the Ravens end up having to put him on IR, which John Harbaugh said that he doesn't know whether or not he's going to be on IR, that could be catastrophic for this Baltimore Ravens team. It just is what it is, man. Because like you said, like you saw tonight, they can double Travis Jones. As good as Travis Jones is, he's not doing anything against a double team. Especially not from the interior, where they can kind of wall him off like that, the center and the guard. It's, man, it could look very, very spooky for the Ravens. It could look very spooky for the Ravens. Just saying, guys. Zach Ward with the soft coverage is killing me. Yeah, I mean, like I said, guys, it's kind of like what I said earlier. Like it seems like they're just kind of throwing shit at a wall, seeing if it sticks. And it's either they give up big plays over the top, which is what we saw early last year from the defense, or they give up everything underneath, which you got to kind of pick your poison on that when you can't rush the quarterback, when you can't get pressure on the quarterback. But when you are just allowing teams to sustain 8, 9, 10-minute drives, that does more than, especially when those drives end in touchdowns. Because it's kind of like a twofer there. Like you're giving up 7 points, and you're also tiring out the defense. I was begging for halftime to come, but when after the Lions had that 10-minute drive, 10 minutes and 40 seconds or something like that, and they scored a touchdown at the end of it, I was begging for halftime. Halftime could not come quick enough because I knew the defense was going to be gassed after that. Like, just, it only makes sense. These are professional athletes, but 10 minutes on the field, especially as a defender, it's more tiring playing defense than playing on offense, because on defense you have to be reactionary. You don't know what's going to happen before each play. You have to play your heart out the same way on each play because you don't know where the ball's going. Guys on offense, you might be able to take a play off a little bit physically, right? If you're a receiver and you know it's going to be a run, or you're going to be blocking on this play, whatever. It's more exhausting playing defense. It just is. But let me see. Pass rushing taking place. Too many times today, this year, I saw Owe not actually pass rushing and taking plays off. Yeah. Again, pass rush, it wasn't embarrassing. It was non-existent. To be embarrassing would to admit that it existed. It didn't. Get Hauser says Starks is not a playmaker. I mean, listen, I kind of mentioned it earlier. I gotta go back and look at the tape to see, because we don't really hear Malachi Starks' name too much. Like, I think he got targeted maybe once or twice today. I think Laporta caught a catch on him, which I'm not mad at. Starks is a free safety. If you get one-on-one with a tight end, then just like kind of like what we saw with Mark Andrews with that big catch on Brian Branch earlier in that game. A tight end is supposed to make a one-on-one contested catch against a smaller safety. Now, or just a smaller DB in general. Now, what I will say is that he does not have, and he doesn't play with quite the same intensity and violence as a Kyle Hamilton, which I know is asking for a lot, right? But I think that the Ravens do need a playmaker on that back end. And this is kind of like why the Ravens did really well with Ardarius Washington last year. You know what I mean? Because he was a playmaker. He was making plays back there. Stone, even when he was with us, he was making plays back there. So is it enough to just like not hear his name called because he's holding down that back end? Sure. But we know the nature of this Ravens defense right now is not really asking him to do too much on that back end, because they're playing off, right? And they're letting up these things underneath, these passing plays underneath. So everything is in front of him anyway to begin with. And he had to come up and make the play, make the tackle on multiple occasions in this game. And not to say I don't like his tackling, but I do feel like the physicality level, he's not there yet when it comes to NFL physicality. Malachi Starks is not quite there. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree with that in the chat. Still over 160 people watching live right now. Dylan said, just got back from the game. I'm in disbelief still. Why was Mike Green dropping into coverage on Laporta when he's a pass rush specialist? Yeah, Dylan, I would say I hope you enjoyed the game, but I know that it was a sour ending to that one, I'm sure, for the entire bank. But again, I was saying it earlier on the stream, Dylan, it seemed like the Ravens defensive coordinator, Zach Orr, was just kind of throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. And that was very early in the game, too. So that was highly concerning when I saw it happen. But I knew it was kind of like an indicator for, okay, this is how this game is going to go. We have to try to throw whatever looks. We have to empty the playbook. I think this is one of those games where, like, if you're a Zach Orr, you kind of go back. I don't want to say, like, just kind of defeated, because it's like we tried everything, and just nothing worked. It was the same thing against the Buffalo Bills. But that's why you need a guy like an Aiden Hutchinson tonight. He contributed to those 7 sacks on Lamar Jackson versus 0 on Jared Goff. You need a guy who's going to be able to step up, coming off that edge or rushing from the inside, who's going to get these quarterbacks off their spot. Because that's Jared Goff's X factor ability. It's why he is regarded as such a good quarterback. Because he's not mobile like these other guys. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. He's not, all these other guys who can run. Jaden Daniel, all these other guys who can run. His X factor ability is hitting his back foot and getting the ball out. So if you don't have somebody who's going to be able to knock him off of that back foot and make him look around the pocket instead of looking downfield, he's going to dice you up all game. And again, he didn't have anything. He didn't have any huge plays over the top on the Ravens. He really didn't. I mean, I know there was a deep touchdown to Amon-Ra St. Brown that went over Marlon Humphrey's head. But for the most part, he didn't have a whole lot of deep passing plays. He had just over 200 yards passing in this game. 1 touchdown. But he got every single thing underneath. He got everything underneath. Which is what kept the Lions offense on the field, kept the Ravens offense off the field, and ultimately lost the Ravens the game. Pass rush is the issue, that we don't run stunts. We disguise a lot, but never any exotic blitzes. At best, we see a cornerback blitz and we get burned every time. Yeah, every time I see a DB rushing the quarterback, I get scared. I get scared that they're going to throw right into that void and it's going to be for a big play. And it was again today. Same thing. Same thing. Dr. Ilwan says we missed Matabike and Vanoy out there. Yeah, man. Missed them big time. I don't know how much Vanoy would have contributed, because Vanoy is not really like, 12 and a half sacks last year. Awesome. But in big moments like that, in big games, we don't really see a Kyle Van Noy step up and really be that game-wrecking edge either. So I just don't think that the Ravens have any pass rushers right now, whether it be Odafe Owe, rather it be Kyle Van Noy, Tavius Robinson, Mike Green. None of these guys can win outside consistently with any sort of consistency. They just can't. That's what it boils down to, guys. And if the Ravens cannot address that, which I don't think that they'll be able to do mid-season, it's probably something that they're going to have to make a big splash next year, in free agency and things like that in the offseason, to bring in a proven, bona fide edge rusher. I mean, that's what it is. That's what it is, guys. Because I don't see Odafe Owe getting any better than he is right now. Mike Green, jury's still out a little bit, I guess. I would assume that post this game, we're gonna start to see some discourse heating up on the streets of X and Instagram and social media and whatever. That, okay, like, when are we gonna get some production out of Mike Green? Like he was supposed to be the missing piece. He's getting more playing time now because no Van Noy. But he was supposed to be the missing piece in the Ravens kind of completing that defense, right? Being the guy who you can rush forward with on 3rd and 7, and you have confidence that he can at the very least make Jared Goff pull that ball down, hesitate for an extra second, right? To maybe force him into another defender or force him to try to extend the play and things like that. But we just can't. We can't. We don't have that guy. Mike Green is not that guy. He's not that guy. Dr. Ilwan says, and I agree with this too, I think we need to press the wide receivers, disrupt the timing of these quick pass offense teams to give more time for the pass rush. And this is something that I agree with as well. But that's when you start to see guys go over the top a lot more. And I think that would be a lot more devastating as a fan of the team. Because as we saw last year, what was happening, it was just, we were calling for Zach Orr's job. And some people are doing that here tonight or this morning, whenever you might be listening to this. But people were calling for Zach Orr's head. I mean, just a couple of games into his coaching career for letting those sort of plays happen. So I get it. Press man seems like the answer, but it's not, because press man is not sustainable. It's not going to be sustainable. You're going to have offenses and quarterbacks who are going to take heed of the fact that, hey, look, these guys are pressing up on our receivers. As long as we've got some talent on the outside, which against these better teams with an Amon-Ra St. Brown, with some of these guys that we're playing coming up soon here, Nico Collins, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Tyquan Thornton, who he's developing a relationship, a chemistry connection with Mahomes. Xavier Worthy's going to be back next week. Against a lot of these guys who can win on the outside, you know what I mean? And maybe not so much Xavier Worthy, but you guys get my point. Against these receivers who can win on the outside, I just don't think running press man and just doing that is the answer. No, you have to get pressure, whether you're running press man, whether you're running a softer zone, and you're trying to be more conservative and bend, don't break sort of thing. The whole bend, don't break thing does not work if you are not actively trying to also break the offense down and being, aggressive. And that starts with the pass rush, not necessarily just playing press man, I'll say. So, I mean, I like what you're saying there, Ilwan, but it's just, you got to get pressure, man. You got to get pressure. Got to get pressure. Yeah. Although it's not that the injuries are the problem. Let me see what you guys are saying here. Clowney was taking plays off in the playoffs against the Chiefs. No thanks. So some of you guys talking about Clowney. Yeah, Clowney, man. Let me see. Willow says he's a Lions fan. As a Lions fan, I do not want to hear about any injuries on the D-line. Get better depth. Do you know how many injuries we had going into that playoff game last year, and nobody talked about our injuries? Well, I'm sure you guys did. I'm sure Lions fans definitely talked about your injuries. I mean, this is a Baltimore Ravens fan YouTube channel. So yeah, we're going to talk about our injuries because we know, just like you guys do, and we're not asking for any sympathy from Lions fans or from anybody else. This is why probably most people who are watching this show right now are Ravens fans, because they know the real reasons why the Ravens lost this game. Tomorrow morning on SportsCenter, you'll probably hear how Lamar Jackson took way too many sacks or whatever, didn't get rid of the football, and he was the reason that they lost the game. No, it was because the Ravens did not win up front, especially with the Ravens front seven on defense. You guys ran over 200 yards on the Ravens defense, which never happens. It just doesn't happen. We don't allow teams to rush for 200, hell, even 100 yards on us. Like, that's just not, it's not very characteristic of the Ravens. So the Ravens fans, again, like I'm saying here, Willow, Ravens fans know exactly why the Ravens lost this game. And it's not just because of injuries. Again, I'm not putting it all on the fact that Madubuike did not play. The Ravens could have still lost. I mean, hell, the Ravens lost week 1 with Madubuike playing, with Kyle Van Noy playing. So I'm not saying that, but the fact that the Ravens uncharacteristically, again, gave up that much on the ground, right, and couldn't get any pressure on Jared Goff, yeah, we're going to talk about how our leading pressure, which is sadly an interior D lineman, his presence was missed. Sorry. But yeah, but thank you for coming through, Willow. Congratulations on the win. Bo Knows says still expect Ravens to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Better O-line play and 1 or 2 plays on defense, and it's a different story. And see, that's the issue, man, because the Ravens are in all of these games where they should quite clearly be getting their butt kicked. You know what I mean? Like you lose time of possession, you lose the turnover battle. You know, you should be getting blown out. But the Ravens just don't. They just don't. They don't get blown out. So it's just frustrating, like knowing that the team is so good, but it's just a couple of things that hold the Ravens back from being actually great. You know, the Ravens are good. They're a good football team, but they'll only be great when they can win in the trenches, and they've just not been able to do that so far this season. 7 sacks, but still 30 points. The 200 yards running game is what did it. Yeah. Lamar Jackson was sacked 7 times. Again, some of that due to him holding the football a little bit too long. I'll totally admit that. I don't want to, not put any onus on Lamar Jackson for this loss, but that is true. That is true. Can't take 7 sacks. It is the loss of Matabik. Sad state of affairs. It is. I mean, we're gonna have to really keep our ears to the street, guys, and monitor this Matabike thing, because as long as he's not playing football, and as long as guys can, the center and guard can double team Travis Jones on most downs, sorry, but the Ravens will continue to get ran over and thrown all over. It doesn't matter what Zach Orr calls. Yeah, just saying. Football is played from the inside out, guys. Let me see. Take a couple more comments before I get out of here. Harbs is the only coach who actively could have double-digit Super Bowl appearances, but does not care because he gets close enough. And I saw somebody in the chat saying earlier, I think it was my guy Cam, he was talking about how Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti famously, however you want to put it, said over the offseason that he wants to win now, And if you want to win now, you have to have premium positions locked up. You know what I mean? Like, you got quarterback, awesome. You got left tackle, great. What about edge rusher? Wide receiver, you can argue, but edge rusher is absolutely a premium position. That's why we see these guys get paid the way that they do. And the fact that the Ravens do not have a premium edge rusher still to this day in Lamar Jackson's career, it's criminal. It's criminal. And if I'm Steve Bisciotti and if I'm Eric DaCosta, either Steve needs to have a conversation with Eric tomorrow morning or tonight, or Eric, I'm sure he's already thinking about it, like, hey, we got to get a pass rusher to Baltimore, man. Because no longer can we just sit around as Ravens fans, as Ravens coaches, as a Ravens front office, officials, whatever. We cannot sit around and continue to watch this defensive line get pushed around and let quarterbacks just throw all over us, no matter who it is. You know what I mean? Flacco couldn't really get it done because he's 84 years old and the Browns don't have a whole lot of offensive talent. But when you're a team who's supposed to be contending for a Super Bowl, you assume you're going to be playing against teams who have offensive talent in your route to the Super Bowl, which means you need to be able to neutralize that offensive talent by having an edge rusher who's going to blow up the operation, much like we saw Aiden Hutchinson do on multiple occasions tonight, and again, contributing to those 7 sacks that Lamar Jackson took. That's all it boils down to. Twilly says, bro, Steve is a multi-billionaire. He owns Old Bay. This, owning the Ravens, is his hobby. Lamar brings in revenue. Being great is not on the billboard. So what it feels like. I mean, Steve Bisciotti says he wants to win now. He wants the Ravens to win right now. But it does not feel like the Ravens are doing everything. It doesn't seem like they're exhausting every single, like, leaving no stone unturned. EDC has done a great job putting this roster together. But there are parts missing in the trenches that the Ravens just, it shows up every time. It shows up every single time the Ravens lose. So again, if I'm EDC, I'm waking up in the morning and saying, like, hey, how can I shore up this pass rush game? How can I make it easier on Zach Orr so he doesn't have to try to throw all these different types of blitzes? I mean, we're throwing cornerback blitzes in the first quarter of the game. Easy blitz pickup by the running back. easy pitch and catch to receiver. I mean, this is one of the best receivers in the game we're talking about, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Cover him. Cover him. You know Jared Goff is going to get the ball out quick. He's not one of these quarterbacks who hesitates. He has one of the fastest times to throw in the league. It was just ill-advised, but that's what you do. Those are the type of things you do when you know that your front can't get home. When you know your defensive front cannot be disruptive. That's what you have to do. That's what you got to do. Let me see. Before I get out of here, I've been on live here for about an hour and a half now. Just kind of getting through this therapy session. Let me just look at some tweets here before I get out of here. Cordell Woodland, friend of the show, tweeted Ravens offense did not come to play tonight. See, I disagree with that. Yeah, I mean, I know there was the fumble late by Derrick Henry. I know Lamar Jackson took a bunch of sacks in this one. But again, when you're putting up 30-plus points a game, bro, how much can you ask from this offense? We can't expect Lamar Jackson to go out there and throw a Jackson 5 every single game. We can't expect 3 passing touchdowns from Lamar Jackson every single game. And I think he got that tonight. Yeah, he did. But like at some point, the defense has to come to play. The defense has to step up. The defense has to force a turnover. A turnover for the defense is like a touchdown for the defense. It's like a touchdown. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. And the fact that this Ravens team cannot, and again, largely because they can't get pressure, the fact that they cannot force these takeaways, that's what's killing them, guys. That's what's killing them. Yeah. With this defense, offense has to produce Jackson 5s every week. Every week. I see another Lions fan in the chat says, oh yeah, Ravens fans was talking real saucy. Another kneecap victim. Yeah, congrats on the win, Lions fans. Oh, you guys got Kansas City next week. You guys got this. Trust me, you guys can beat Kansas City. Yeah, you don't know this Ravens team, bro. They will play down to whatever competition they're facing. Apparently Harbaugh said at the podiums, we have to get a better pass rush. Yeah, duh. Yeah. Captain Obvious, right? Captain freaking Obvious. Should have traded for Micah Parsons. That's what an ambitious team would have done. I'm reading somebody's comment on Twitter. Yeah, man. It's one of those things where, for the life of me, I can't understand not trying, excuse me, not doing everything in your power to shore up every premium position on this team. They've got most of it locked down. Again, just extended Ronnie Stanley. Expect them to extend, Lamar Jackson soon here. But pass rusher, which would kind of complete that trifecta of premium positions, we're still gambling on that one. We're still, and I was just excited about the Mike Green pick as the next Ravens fan, but we haven't seen anything from him yet. As a matter of fact, we've seen him kind of get stonewalled on multiple plays. I know he had a pressure tonight, I think, maybe just one, 2 tops, right? But like a lot of times it looks like his size isn't allowing him to get any sort of pressure on the quarterback. I mean, guys are just kind of holding him up, and it's just like you have to generate more power than that. I know he's a really big finesse player, and that's what probably excited a lot of Ravens fans, but doesn't feel like he's generating a whole lot of power against these starting tackles. Just doesn't. He's kind of getting stood up. Owe has always been Owe, you know what I mean? Hell of an athlete, but at the end of the day, just cannot seem to get any consistent pressure, cannot finish plays either. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. But yeah. Got to get that pass rush together. Beat the Browns and lost to 2 good teams. Not a good look. Yeah, the Ravens stock is plummeting. It's plummeting, guys. Because I mean, all you have to your name is a win over the Cleveland Browns. That's it. That's it. Only 2 good teams you've played. Only 2 playoff teams you played this year. You've lost to. And you lost to them both the same way. The blueprint is out on how to beat the Ravens. Keep it close towards the end. Take everything the Ravens give you underneath when you're on offense. And if you keep it close towards the end, their offense, when they're forced to kind of stand up and really put the team on their back, somebody will make a mistake. And this is the second time, actually third, Derrick Henry fumble. He's fumbled in every single game this year. Every single game. That's not going to win. That's not going to, yeah. That's not going to win the Ravens anything. Honestly, Lamar may hit us with the taking my talents to South Beach. I swear I'll rage, bro. I'll freaking rage. That would be crazy. Let me see. Dolphins finna get rid of Tua right when Lamar's contract is about to expire. Man. This is an embarrassing loss. All right. I'm going to go ahead and leave it there for this episode of Quiet Storm Sports, guys. Again, we will be live tomorrow, kind of recapping this game, me and Alex. So make sure you stay tuned for that. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be another therapy session, so make sure you stay tuned in. Make sure you like the video, guys. Also, subscribe to the channel before you get out of here. I'd appreciate that. You know, a tough loss for sure. Does it mean the season's over? No. I don't think it means the season's over, but there is going to have to be number one, some guys got to get back from injury. We need Matabike. Cannot afford to lose him. We're going to have to wait and see how severe this neck injury of his really is. But gonna have to get some guys back from injury. Pat Ricard, I think, will help the run blocking game as well. And then this defense, man. There's got to be like a come to Jesus moment. Players only meeting. I don't know, whatever needs to be done. But this defense right now is not playing like a unit that we expected. As Ravens fans, as NFL fans, everybody expected this defense to look really good. One of the best in the league. So there has to be some sort of come to Jesus moment where they just kind of rally around each other and they start flying around that field with more confidence. You know, it feels like the defense is not playing with any confidence, any juice, anything. They're just taking whatever the offense gives them, you know, and they're more importantly, they're not taking the ball away. So that's what needs to happen. That's what needs to happen in order for the Ravens to turn things around. An embarrassing loss, a frustrating loss, I know, but if you're a Ravens fan out there, keep your head up. If you're a Lions fan, congrats on the win. I think the Ravens will bounce back. They do have the Chiefs next week, so it's not going to get any easier, even though the Chiefs are struggling. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs. So I'm sure that game will be fun as well next week. But until next time, I want to appreciate each and every one of you guys for coming out to this episode of the show. I know this is a late night stream, or whether or not you're listening to this in the morning. Again, however, shout out to you. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. This is your boy Sudden Death from the Purple Rain Podcast. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Peace.